I'm Anne, and I'm an experienced and registered yoga teacher in the Portland area. As many of you have probably heard, we are experiencing Snowpocalypse Part 4, 4.0, Part 4, whatever you want to call it. So we're snowed in. Most people are not leaving their houses, hopefully, which means I likely won't be able to teach for a few days. And the last time this happened, I went a little stir crazy. And so I'm going to experiment here by teaching you a mini yoga sequence. Now, this is an experiment. I'm recording this on my phone, so I'm welcome to get feedback from you. Please let me know if you liked it, what you would like to see more of. I have a couple of ideas for the next few days, but I'm always willing to take feedback. So we'll just see how it goes, and if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, I'll figure out a better way to make it work. So just so you know, before you start a yoga practice, you should check in with your doctor. But you are responsible for your own yoga practice. I teach my classes to remind people to honor their bodies, but still while challenging themselves. You know your body better than anybody else does, so I want you to honor your body at all times. If you need to modify, you modify, and if you need to come out of a yoga pose, you come out of that pose. You never want to force your body into any yoga pose. So make sure that if it doesn't feel okay, you don't do it. You know your body better than anyone. I want to repeat that because I don't think that is understood enough. I know anatomy, I know alignment, and I know my body, but I don't know yours. So even if I were physically with you in a class, I would still want feedback from you and for you to honor your own body. So that being said, before we get started, I just want to make sure that if you want any more information from me, this is my information. My alter ego is Go Fit Girl. My name is Anne. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, all of that good stuff. And if you have any questions, you can always email me as well. My email is Ann, A-N-N, @gofitgirl.com. So before we get started with the actual yoga practice, I wanted to talk briefly about props. I'm a big believer in props. The type of yoga that I teach, I call Hatha alignment with a Iyengar influence, and that uses a lot of props. I think props help to make poses more accessible. They make them safer. We can do things that maybe our bodies wouldn't be able to do without them. But I know that most people don't have yoga props. So what I'm going to use today is a yoga block, a strap, and a blanket. So most of you won't have those, but I'm pretty sure you probably have this other stuff in your home. So instead of a yoga block, you can have books, unless you've gotten rid of all your books because now you only read on your Kindle. So even one book would be okay, but I found that all three of these books are the same height as my yoga block. So you decide what's best for you. You can also always put a towel or something over so that they're not as hard when you use them, because you'll see the different ways that we'll be using the props. For a strap, you have a few options. If you have a bathrobe, you could use the belt from the bathrobe. A tie works as well in these poses if you have a tie that you want to use. You could always go to Goodwill and buy a cheap tie. And then for your blanket, you could use a blanket in the house or even a towel. Towels tend to fold a little bit better than maybe a big bulky blanket. So those are your options for your at-home props. I'm going to use my regular props that I use, and I'll show you at times when they're appropriate, when they can help you make a pose more accessible, more comfortable, all of that. So let's get started. I'm going to move back to my mat. We're going to start in a seated meditation. So you're going to find a comfortable seat for yourself to just take a few rounds of breath. Since this is a mini yoga practice, things are going to be a little bit truncated. If you find that you want to do a 5 or 10 minute meditation, that's awesome. I highly encourage it. As a yoga teacher, I have a really hard time with meditation. That is somewhere that I am working on. And so I start my classes with a meditation. They aren't very long. And for myself personally, my meditations usually aren't very long either. So we all have things to strive for, to work on. And that's one of mine. So I'm going to move back to my mat. I am going to sit on the edge of my blanket. You could also sit on the edge of your block. I'm going to come into a cross-legged position, and I've actually been challenging my students lately. I just came to my habitual side. This is my easier hip, so I'm going to come to my non-habitual side first, and we always work on both sides. So we come to a comfortable seat. I'm sitting on something because normally my pelvis would tuck under the body. So I want to sit nice and tall here. My pelvis tilts a little bit forward. My torso is tall and long. My chest is open. Hands go wherever is comfortable for you. We'll close our eyes or have a soft gaze and start to check in with the breath. We'll slowly start to open our eyes, bringing our presence back to the room. From here, you bring your arms down by your sides. On your inhale, the arms are going to come up. On the exhale, they will come down. One more time, inhaling up, exhaling down. Let's switch the cross of the legs. We'll do those, what I call wing arms. We'll do those 2 more times. So you're leading your movement with your breath. Inhaling up, exhaling down. Inhaling up, exhale down. We're going to do some shoulder rolls. We'll start first by going back, up, forward, and down. Do that 3 more times in that direction. Moving slowly through. Feeling as the shoulder blades move, shoulders come higher, arms rotate. And we'll switch going forward, up, back, and down. 3 more times in that direction. Last one. We're going to come into curious dog tip. So the right ear will come down toward the right shoulder, giving a stretch to the opposite side of the neck. So make sure that you don't bring your shoulder up to the ear. Coming back up, we'll go to the other side. Coming back up. 2 more times each side. Making our way back to center. From here, we're going to come into a tabletop position, setting up for our cat-cow. I'm getting a little toasty, so I'm going to take my sweater off, which will actually allow you to see my body a little bit better as we come through our various poses. We come onto all fours. Knees are below the hips. Wrists will come below the shoulders. Your fingers are spread wide. I'm a hyperextender, so it's really easy for me to press my, what I call elbow pits out, straight out in front of me. So I want to activate these biceps, keep the arms strong, and to help to take out that hyperextension. My fingers are spread wide. Then on my next exhale, I'm going to start to round my lower back, hollowing out the belly in my angry cat. On the inhale, I'll reverse it, arching my back, belly down toward the mat, head and neck up slightly. Chest is open. Making my way back to the cat, tucking my pelvis into the cow, tilting the pelvis. Let's go a couple more rounds. You go to your own breath, your own pace. Maybe you want to imagine that you have a tail and you wag your tail as you move through the cat and the cow. It can feel good on the low back, the spine, the hips, the head and neck if they participate. From here, we're going to come into downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. My hands are going to go a little bit forward, which means you won't be able to see them in the video, I just realized. I'm going to curl my toes under. I'm going to lift my knees up the mat, pressing my butt, hip, and thighs as far away from my hands as I can. So I want length and space in that spine. Making sure that our ears stay between our upper arms, our fingers are spread wide, hands are shoulder distance apart, feet are hip distance apart. So for many of us, if we really straighten those legs, the back will roll. So bending the knees, shooting the butt back, helps to take weight out of those wrists and helps us to get more length in our spine. If it would feel good for you, you can pedal the feet. I'll move a little bit so that you can see my feet. Bending one knee and straightening the other leg. Going back and forth at your own pace. Make sure it's slow, that you can really feel the stretch throughout the leg. From here, coming into Uttanasana, our forward fold. The feet can walk to the hands to the feet, or maybe a combo of the two. I'm hinging at my hip creases. My body is long. If my hands don't easily reach the mat, I can use my block. I can bend my knees a little or a lot. I can grasp opposite elbows. If you grasp opposite elbows, maybe go to the other side. Relaxing that head and neck, shaking the head no, shaking the head yes. Hands will come to the hips, slowly making my way up to standing. Coming on up into Tadasana, mountain pose. My feet are about hip distance apart. How I figure that out is I feel around for the bony points in my hips, and if I could draw a line down my leg, the line would go right through the middle of my ankles. That's hip distance apart. For most of us, that's a pretty good spot to be. If that's not okay and you need to go wider, you do. Shorter is fine as well. Making sure that your feet, all four corners, feel grounded and rooted in the mat. We're going to make sure that the hips go above the heels, shoulders above the hips, head and neck flow evenly over the shoulders, arms come down by our sides in our Tadasana mountain pose with our lovely, tall, natural posture. I'm going to turn to the side as we're going to make our way back into Uttanasana, forward fold, hinging, length gathering in that spine, draping the pelvis, the torso over the thighs, bringing your hands back down toward the mat or your block. I'll show with the block. If it's really difficult for the hands to reach, the block can bring the floor closer to you. Relaxing that head and neck. Making our way back into our downward facing dog. Stepping those feet back. Fingers spread wide. This is part of the video I'm going to have to work on, I see. You're going to take in a nice deep inhale. And on the exhale, the right foot is going to come forward. You could swing that leg up, bring it forward, coming into a lunge, back knee comes down to the mat. If that's not okay, there's a better way to do it if that's much too difficult for you to do. You bring your knees down to the mat and you'll step the foot forward. Making sure that your knee is right above your ankle. Shin is perpendicular to the floor. If you can't easily reach the floor, you can use your block. You could have your hands up on your thigh or even hands at the hips. Making sure that this 90-degree angle stays here. It's okay for the knee to be back behind the heel, but never forward of it. That's when we start to cause damage in that joint. So we want to be nice to our knees. Low lunge here, Anjayasana. We'll come back to the tabletop and we're going to make our way into a plank. If you want to do plank on your knees, you do it on your knees. If you want to do it on your forearms, you make sure that your elbows are under your shoulders. If you're going to set up for traditional plank, wrists are below the shoulders, making sure those biceps are nice and active. Stepping one foot back, pressing the heel away. Stepping the other foot back, pressing the heel away. Length and space in the spine. Not sinking in the shoulder blades. No sway back. Lifting from the low belly. Neck is a continuation of the spine. And you're breathing. Coming down to the bellies, there's a couple ways you can do that. If you can keep the back long, keeping the elbows close to the sides, you can come down to the belly. If that's not okay, then you bring those knees down first and then come down. Low Bhujangasana or baby cobra. Hands are right under your shoulders. Pressing the tops of your toenails into the mat. Your toes are not curled under. Elbows stay close to the sides. Curling up. Head, neck, and chest. Make sure that the chin is not jutting forward. Gaze is in front of your mat. Using your hands a little bit, keeping the chest open, pressing the pelvis into the mat, and breathing. Slowly coming back down. Making our way back to downward facing dog. Adho Mukha Svanasana. Taking in a nice deep inhale. On the exhale, the left foot will come forward. Help it up there. Back knee down to the mat. If you need padding for that knee, you can take your towel and put it underneath the knee. Checking in with the alignment here. Deciding if the hands are best here, maybe up on the thigh or maybe hands at the hips. That front foot, ankle might be jiggling around. See if you can really spread those toes onto the mat. You decide how your back foot is. The toes can be curled under. Let me turn so that you can see my back toes. The toes can be curled under, or the top of the foot can be flat on the mat, as long as the leg and foot aren't doing anything weird here. So I think that's a personal preference. That's up to you. So you decide what's best for you. I feel like I get a little more balance when my toes are curled under. We're gonna make our way back into our plank, our second and final plank. You decide what's best for you here. Wrists below shoulders. Stepping one foot back, toes on the mat, second leg. Breathing. Making our way on down to our bellies, the best way for you and the safest. I'm going to turn again so that you can see low Bhujangasana from behind or from the side. Hands are right under the shoulders. You're pressing the tops of the toenails into the mat. Legs are nice and active. Curling up head, neck, and chest. Keeping the elbows close to the sides. Shoulder blades come down onto the rib cage. Neck is a continuation of the spine, and we're breathing, strengthening our low back muscles. Making my way back down. One more downward facing dog. We're going to bring our knees down to the mat. You decide how wide. The big toes touch or come close together. Sitting back on the heels, draping the pelvis over the thighs, bringing your hands down toward the mat along with the forehead. If the forehead doesn't easily touch, you can grab your block and put it under the forehead. If for whatever reason coming into child's pose is not a good option for your body, for your knees or something else, come to lie on your back and hug your knees into your chest. If you're in child's pose, you bring your hands to your knees, press yourselves up to seated. If you're lying on your back, roll over to one side, coming up to seated. We're going to do a couple of wide leg standing poses. Coming on up, bringing your block with you, putting it what is now the front middle part of your mat. Stepping your feet wide, 3 to 4 feet apart. We're going to rotate our right foot and leg 90 degrees. Back heel is going to kick back slightly so that you can see how my back foot is going to be. I'll do a shorter stance here. So I turn the toes slightly in. My front foot and leg are turned 90 degrees. I'm going to bend that front knee. I have a shorter warrior two than I normally do, so I have to be really mindful that the knee doesn't go past the ankle. Make sure that the knee doesn't fall in. It's really easy to do that. So we're going to activate that thigh, turning that knee to make, or not turning the knee, but moving that thigh to make sure that the knee is right over the ankle. Upper belly and chest turn toward knee. Strong arms come up, shoulder height, and you decide where your gaze goes. You could look at the front middle finger. You could look out from your torso, maybe at your back hand. Lifting from the low belly. Chest is open, shoulders are wide. Pressing in the outer edge of that back foot. Back leg is strong and straight. Arms come down. Straighten the front leg. We'll parallel the feet. And let's go to the second side. Rotating the left foot and leg 90 degrees. Kicking that back heel back slightly. Toes are just in just a little bit. So we have a little rotation of those hips. Bending the front knee. Not going past the ankle. Upper belly and chest. Strong arms and gaze. You may find in this pose that the torso is kind of going forward. That back hand can help to bring you back. Strong arms. Pressing all four corners of both feet into the mat. The back part of your knee, I call that the knee pit. Imagine that my hand right now is on that knee pit and you're going to press my hand away. So that back leg is strong, straight, long. Arms come down, straighten the front leg, parallel the feet. We're going to come into our wide leg forward fold. So this may be where the block can come in handy. My feet are parallel. I'm going to hinge at the hip creases. Upper body is long, draping the pelvis over the thighs. If once you get down to the mat, the hands don't easily reach, you widen your stance, you bend your knees, you grasp opposite elbows, or you use the block under your hands to bring the floor closer to you. Making sure that all four corners of the feet on both feet pressing into the mat. Relaxing the head and neck. Make sure the legs are active, that you're not hyperextending if you hyperextend in your knees. If you really widen your stance to come into this pose, you'll heel toe the feet a little closer together. Hands at the hips, slightly bend the knees, tipping yourselves back up. Bringing the feet back together into Tadasana, mountain pose. And we're going to come, oh no, I almost skipped what is the favorite time of class. Some of my students are laughing right now if they're watching this. I need a little hydration here. I'm going to take a little sip of my coconut water. So favorite time of class. Not Shavasana. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Our balance work. So balance is really important. As we age, it becomes even more important. So we're going to set up for Vrikshasana, our tree pose. If you know for balance work that it's appropriate for you to be by a wall, make sure that you're by a wall. Feet are grounded and rooted. We're going to lean over to our right foot, picking the left heel up, turn those toes out. You have three options for your foot. Toes can stay on your surface, your mat, your floor, and the heel is on the shin. The whole foot can come on the shin. You never want to place your foot on your knee, even though they're perfect for each other. Or maybe you want to bring the foot to the thigh. Now, if you bring your foot all the way up, don't manipulate your body to get into that position. So it may be more appropriate for you to be down here today. You want to make sure that your hips are square forward. You lock your gaze with something on the floor in front of you. You're lifting from the low belly, the chest is open, and we're not holding our breath. Hands can stay at the hips. Maybe it'd be better to have your arms out to the sides. Hands can come to heart center, or you can even grow those tree branches up toward, maybe you live somewhere there's beautiful sun, or somewhere where you're hoping there will be beautiful sun. Checking in with the breath. Hands come together, down in front of the heart. Release that foot with control and give it a shake. Get those feet grounded and rooted again, leaning over to the left side, picking the right heel up, turn those toes out. Get your foot in place. Once you have that foot in place, make sure that you're pressing your foot into your leg as much as you're pressing your leg into your foot. And make sure that that hip is not popping out. So we're bringing it all to center, working our way up the trunk, and then you decide where the hands go on this side. Free-flowing breath here. Hands come together, down in front of the heart. We'll release that foot with control and we'll shake it out. We're going to come back down and have a seat now. If you want to sit on something, grab what's appropriate for you. Coming onto the mat. Legs are out long. We're going to come into a seated forward fold here. So if you think your strap, whatever that is appropriate, you can grab your strap and you can put it around the arch of your feet. And make sure that your feet are active, nice and flexed here. If you have really tight hamstrings, you might want to bend your knees a little bit, or you can take your block and slide it under those knees. We want to make sure that we're still tall in that torso. So we start tall here. We're going to come into a forward fold. Forward folds are about hinging, length, and then coming forward. So this may be your forward fold today. Maybe you want to come a little farther forward, making sure that you're hinging. The chest is open. If your whole body got down onto, if your whole torso got down onto your legs, your belly would touch first your chest and then your head. So no forward folding like this. That's so bad for the back. We don't want to. We want to be kind to our backs. I have a lot of low back issues, as many of my students do. So we want to be nice to our bodies. Let's slowly make our way back up. If you're using a strap, set it off to the side. We're going to bend our right knee, bringing that foot to the mat. Left foot stays nice and active. Inhale, hugging that knee in nice and tall. On the exhale, from the low belly, upper belly, chest and shoulders, you're going to turn toward that bent knee. Make sure action is happening here. Then if it's okay, you'll bring your left hand around that right knee. Back hand will either come into the mat or it can extend out behind you. I'll do this from the side on the next side so that you can see that. Chest is open, torso is upright. On your next exhale, let's come out of the twist. Extend that leg long. I'm going to turn so that you can see me from the second side. We'll bend our left knee, bringing that foot to the mat. Right foot stays active. Inhale, tall. Exhale, coming into the twist, starting with that low belly, working your way up the torso. Right hand around the left knee, back hand. If it doesn't easily reach the mat, you extend your arm out behind you. I realize now you still can't see it, but it gives you a better idea. So we want to make sure that we're not leaning into anything. And if your hand really can't reach, then that's when it's better just to extend that arm out behind you. Hand on the mat, arm extending. On your exhale, coming out of the twist, extending that leg long, maybe giving those legs a little wiggle. We're going to come to lie down on the mats. So for some of our poses, it's appropriate to have something under your head. For some of the poses that we do, I like something under my head. Keeps my neck long and gives me support that I need. We're going to come into one of my least favorite yoga poses, Ananda Balasana, Happy Baby. So I definitely need something here under the head. So you come to lie down on your back. Knees are bent, feet are on the mat. Then let's hug the knees into the chest. Coming into Happy Baby, separating the knees apart, reaching the arms in between the legs, bringing the legs into as much of a 90-degree angle as you can. Maybe that means you grab onto the outer edges of your feet, maybe the backs of your calves, behind your knees, your thighs, making sure that there's no turtle shell going on in your low back. Checking in with the breath. The breath is a great indicator if you've gone too deep into a pose. Make sure it's flowing. Bringing those knees back in, giving yourself a hug, maybe rocking a little side to side, circling the knees. Dropping the knees over to the left, coming into a reclined twist. You drop the knees, upper body comes out to the side. The second side, I'll do it from a different angle. So your upper body, you decide how it is. The arms can be out to the side. Hands can be on the chest, hands can be on the belly, a hand can be on the knees. If your opposite shoulder is popping up off the mat, you don't force it down, you allow it to be as it is. Coming back to center. I'm going to rearrange myself so that I can come into a different position. Hugging the knees in. Coming on over to our twist to the right. Knees drop. Arm either out to the side, hands to be on the chest, the belly, a hand on the knees. Coming into a reclined twist on this side. Your arms can be in a T or in cactus arms, whatever's comfortable for you here, especially if we have shoulder issues going on. We need to be really mindful that for some of you, your arm may hover above the mat, and that is okay. Hugging those knees back in, rocking a little side to side. Feet come back down to the mat. If you've decided to use a blanket under your head, I'm going to ask you to move that out of the way. We're going to come into a supported bridge pose. You could use your towel or blanket. You could use your block or your books to come into your supported bridge pose. We come to lie down again. Knees are bent. Feet are on the mat. Feet are about hip distance apart. Feet are a little bit in front of the knees. We're going to press our feet into the mat, lift the hips up. You're going to take that block and you're going to slide it under the sacrum and tailbone, resting the hips back down. So it's not on the low back. It's supporting a little bit lower. And it's a restorative pose. It's not a working pose. So you make sure that you feel comfortable here. Arms are out to the side, or hands can be on the chest, hands can be on the belly. Coming into Setu Bandha, our supported bridge pose. This is one of my favorite poses. It really helps me with my low back issues. For most of us with low back issues, it will help. But sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes you need to be in a lower version, so you use your blanket instead of the block, supporting yourself in the same position. Pressing the feet into the mat again, lifting the hips up, moving the block out of the way, setting the hips back down. Rolling over to your side, coming up to seated. So we're going to set up for Shavasana, our final relaxation pose. You should feel comfortable, supported, warm, even in this pose. You want it to be quiet. If it can be dark, you want it to be dark. I'm going to put my sweater on because I'm a little chilly. Typically in this pose, I like to have a bolster under my knees. I didn't even bring up bolsters today, but it's basically this big pillow. You could also roll up one of your blankets that you have at home and put that under the knees to support them. I think I will do that, and then I'm going to use this towel that I have here as a blanket under my head because I like to have a little bit of support under my head when I come into my resting pose. So typically the best thing for Shavasana is to hold it the smallest amount, really 5 minutes. 15 to 20 is ideal. I know we don't always have time for that. We don't think Shavasana is important because we're not doing anything, but we're really doing something. So it's really important to take time for your restorative poses, which I think in the next couple of days I'm going to teach a restorative sequence to you all, and something that you can do at home with the props that you have at home already. So Shavasana, I'm going to come to lie down. If there's a way that you already know that you like to do Shavasana, then you do it. I have the blanket under my knees to support me. I'm going to lie down on my back. I'm going to use that towel under my head. We're going to hold this Shavasana for about 2 minutes. Feel free to hold it longer. You could pause the video, set your phone. Setting a timer is a great idea to keep track of your time, and especially if you fall asleep. So I'll come to lie down. Legs out long, my knees are supported, my head is supported. I'm going to close my eyes or have a soft gaze. I'm not touching anything extraneous, so if you're touching your props or anything near you, move them off to the side unless you are using them. Hands can be on the belly, hands can be on the chest, arms can be out to the sides. Allowing the breath to go naturally. Slowly start to deepen that breath, taking in a full, long, deep inhale and releasing that exhale. Maybe letting out a sigh. Inhale and exhale. Start to make some small movement in the body, starting with the fingers, the toes, the hands, the feet. Making any other movement that would feel good for you in your body. Maybe a stretch, a wiggle, moving your head side to side. Maybe there's something else that sounds good for you in your body. You'll bend your knees, bringing your feet to your prop or to the mat, rolling over to your side in the fetal position. With the strength of your hands and arms, you press yourself up to seated. Bringing your head up last. We'll find a comfortable seat. For me, that's sitting on my blanket. We'll close our eyes or have a soft gaze. If you're coming into your cross-legged position, notice if you went to your habitual side. I purposely went to the other side. We'll close our eyes or have a soft gaze, bringing our hands together at heart center in Anjali Mudra. May we be open and happy to what life brings us. Keep peace in the mind, strength in the body, and love in the heart. Namaste. Thank you so much for practicing with me today. I appreciate feedback. I already noticed some stuff as I was recording. I thought I had my camera in a good spot, but this will be an experiment, and if it becomes something that I can do continually, I'd love to, even after Snowpocalypse is over, and this better be the last one. So again, if you want to get a hold of me, my name is Anne. My email is ann@gofitgirl. I hope you can see all of this. If you just go to gofitgirl.com, you'll find most of my information there. You can also find me on Facebook. I hope you have a great day. Be careful if you are in the Portland area, and I hope to see you online, in person, or watching my videos at some point. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day. Bye.